All right. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whichever part you are living in right now. So, my name is Aves Raza Memon, and I'm your host for the webinar. And this webinar is organized by Linguistics and Pedagogy Webinars. And in this webinar, we arrange international sessions for people to learn more about linguistics and pedagogy from very uh, capable and very knowledgeable speakers. So first of all, I would discuss something about the webinar, that how it will be conducted. So it has basically three parts. In the first part, we will have the presentation from the speaker. In the second part, we will have Q&A session. Q&A session is further divided into two parts. In first half, we will be having some questions asked to sir, which were given to us in registration form. Then we will go for some live questions which you guys will give in the live chat. So after that finishes, we will move towards a certificate distribution process, and I will tell you how to receive your certificate for the participation. So, and one thing to remember, that once the live session ends, this webinar ends, nobody will be capable to like fill the feedback form which will be given for the certificate reception. So that is the process. So make sure you are active during the whole webinar, and when it comes to feedback form link, that will be also provided during the live session, and make sure you fill it timely. Okay, so now we will begin with our webinar. So I would like to welcome Sir Osmar. Okay, so I have added Sir Osmar, so it might be due to some internet lag or something. Okay, let's just wait for Sir Osmar to connect. Okay, so Sir Osman's connection has been disconnected. So we will be back like when Sir Osmar is available. So hang on there, friends. Thank you. All right. So Sir Smart is facing some problem. Okay, so Sir Smart will be joining again. So let's wait for a while. We are really sorry to the audience. What can we do? Like these things happen in online sessions. So as Sir Osman comes, we will have some questions for you. So kindly, okay. So kindly comment your name and qualifications in comment section. Okay, so Osmar is back.
Okay, what
Okay, so
happened?
sir, welcome. Okay, sir. So you can start with introducing yourself and then begin with the presentation.
Okay,
Okay, very
thank,
warm welcome.
thank you so much, Mr. Awais Raza Memon, for the introduction. And thank you so much for also for giving the chance and opportunity to share something today. And my point of this webinar is not only to share what I have, but also to learn something from the viewers right here, especially for the question and answer portion later on. Okay, so I have to greet first. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're in the world right now. It is my pleasure and honor to be given this opportunity to conduct an hour, more or less than an hour webinar session. But before that, before I begin, allow me first to introduce myself very briefly. I am Professor Osmar Labajo, and most of the students fondly call me Teacher Osmar, but I prefer to be called Teacher Osmar than Professor Osmar or Sir Osmar. I have been teaching for about 13 years. I'm very old now in all levels, from elementary to college. Then I have completed my undergraduate and graduate studies in the Philippines. As it is, I have been teaching English here in Spain for 3 years, about 3 years, yes. And what this is the place where I encounter students from different countries like Latin America, France, from the UK, and many different places. Teaching English in a multicultural classroom, especially here in Spain, is a very challenging experience for me, which leads me to tailor fit my instructions in response to their prior knowledge and, of course, to their culture, because they learn English here as the foreign language, not as the second language. So it's really challenging. Okay, in fact, every day I encounter a lot of problems in managing their behavior, especially that I don't speak Spanish very much. It's really difficult to call their attention, and you need to use an appropriate word that is really understanding for them. Okay, and then sometimes I failed a lot, and I also succeed in addressing some problems in the classroom. But the most important thing there is that you learn from it. That's the most important thing. Okay. And then from what you have learned, from the mistakes that you've got in the classroom, you keep on learning, studying, and researching. And that's what makes us very effective teacher. Okay. So I think everyone is very familiar with John Dana, a very famous American educator. According to John Dana, do you remember his line, his famous line? Who dares to teach must never cease to learn. Okay, let me repeat it. Who dares to teach must never cease to learn. Do you agree with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you keep on learning, you can teach better. And if
Okay.
somebody questions you that isn't updated or related with you or related to
Okay.
your prior learnings, so you can learn that and also teach the students then.
Okay. I think everyone has also his or her own answer there. But if you do not agree with this, then you don't need to join this webinar session anymore. I'm just kidding. Okay, learning is nonstop and it's a continuous process. That is why we keep on learning and acquiring something new, because nothing is permanent in this world. Everything changes. The more when we teach language, because language is dynamic, and language evolves from time to time, so that we should not stick to the idea that what we have learned from the structures of English in the past 10 years are still very much applicable at this time, because language changes and it is alive, and we have to keep abreast with this. Okay, so if we are not open to the trends of how language evolves, then we fail to nurture the learners for the future, but we only nurture the learners in the past. Okay? On the other hand, the end goal of language teaching is not only to be competent in the use of grammar and usages, but competent on how to use such grammar and usages at the right time, at the right place, and of course, the most important thing, also with the right people we speak with and we talk to. This is where effective communication takes place. Okay, let us try to how do we call this? Let us try to keep this in mind, these motive questions before I open my slide. If we produce learners who are fluent and witty in the use of language, but he or she doesn't make the audience understand what he or she speaks about, then effective communication is not there. Second thing, if we produce learners who make the audience understand, okay, who make the audience understand what he or she speaks about, but he or she cannot persuade the audience to believe and respect in his or her idea, then effective communication is not very evident there. What if, one thing, if we produce learners who are persuaded by our ideas and stands, and they use those ideas to teach and also inspire others, then it is better. Purposive and effective communication are there. Okay? But another strong point, we should not only end with this. Another strong point to determine effective communication is if we teach our students to solve communication breakdown or communication problems in different situations and handle communication problems and conflict effectively, this is a very important thing, then he or she is both an effective and purposive communicator. Okay? So I have some questions to you. How are we able to teach language in order for our students to use such language in handling people of different cultures and social background effectively? The other question, how are we able to teach language so that our students can express their ideas creatively, freely, and persuasively in addressing social problems? Are we only teaching to let the students master the rules of grammar? Is that enough? Remember, a number of global problems are somehow brought about by the lack of effective communication, misunderstanding. What happened to the war between Russia and Ukraine nowadays? The problem lies somehow in misinterpretation, misunderstanding, and communication plays a very important role there. So, this is because language is very powerful. It connects people, but it also distracts us, distracts the world, distracts people, depending on how it is used and how it is interpreted. Therefore, today, let us talk about, despite the short time, the idea how language is used effectively, that is understood by one community or the other. And on the other hand, in the pedagogical aspects, let us talk about some language learning activities that would make our students communicate beyond borders to the extent that they are heard by the world and how they address some social and global issues through their skills in communication. So now, allow me to present to you my topic for today.
Okay, sure, sir.
Okay, let me know if this is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, my topic today is descriptive grammar and pragmatism in language pedagogy. Such topic is divided into two. The first one is the descriptive grammar, and the second one is the use of pragmatism in language teaching. Okay, now let's be guided by the learning goals that we try to achieve somehow in this session. The first goal is to distinguish the difference of descriptive grammar from that of there is a typographical error here. I'm so sorry. Distinguish the difference of descriptive grammar from that of prescriptive grammar by highlighting the importance of the former. So let us take a look between the two, but we only highlight the descriptive grammar because nowadays there are a lot of varieties of English, and it has its own standard that needs to be respected. I have to explain about this further in the later part. Number two, identify the scope and importance of pragmatism as an educational philosophy in language teaching. Pragmatism is I am referring pragmatism here is referring to the educational philosophy, not the pragmatism in as part of linguistics. Okay, pragmatism as an educational philosophy that applies to all subjects. But in here, we only focus how this philosophy is applied in language teaching. The third goal, to acquire some pedagogical tips and techniques in utilizing pragmatism in language teaching to address world problems. There are actually activities provided and suggested by me later on that are pragmatists in use. And let us talk about it later, how it helps students, how they help students harness their skills, their communication skills, and more especially how they can apply their communication skills across the border, especially in addressing social problems. Always remember the end point or the overarching point in this webinar is how to address social problems through the use of language. Okay? Then the last goal is to keep abreast of the techniques in managing language classroom. I'm always including this whenever I give a webinar because this is very important. Okay, we cannot teach the lesson effectively unless we manage the students' behavior or the classroom. So keeping abreast of the techniques in managing language classroom to foster positive and vibrant language learning environment because most of the time students find English very threatening. They are how they call it, intimidated to learn the language. So how can we establish positive environment for the students to acquire the language very spontaneously? Okay, and they are free to express whatever they want to. Okay, then, language teaching and learning acquisition is more effective as well if it creates non-threatening environment. So this is what we call if you remember, the affective filter of caution, negative feelings such as lack of confidence, motivation, and learning anxiety act as filters to hinder and obstruct language learning. So we can talk about this later on. All right. Now, you see the difference between the two. That is the first. Wait, okay. Do you see the difference between the two? Descriptive is a study of language, the structure rules that are used in daily life speakers from all walks of life, including especially the standard and non-standard varieties. On the other hand, prescriptive grammar specifies how a language and its grammar rules should be used. This part of our session today talks about descriptive grammar. Grammar is always part of of language teaching. However, most students do not find grammar lesson as something exciting. They agree with me because they are how do we call this? They are directed to the idea to memorize the set of rules, the sentence structures. So it's boring on their part. That is why grammar is better not taught. Better not taught. I'm not telling you never teach. Okay, that is where grammar is better not taught deductively. When we say deductively, it is like I will introduce first for example, adjective. I will introduce first the meaning of adjective, another different type of adjective, then the examples of sentences with adjective, and after that, let's have a test. That's what I mean of not better not to teach that way, very deductive. Because whether we like it or not, so when students learn the grammar of a second language, it is always, it has always what we call this pressure because it's the second language. It's language learning, not language acquisition. Okay, so instead of introducing the meaning of adjective, the examples, and some sentences that use adjective, let's try to teach them inductively in a way that we have to give examples first. Or, for example, let's watch a movie first, or let's watch this TikTok video first, or that's something that's trending that the students are really into. Or let's watch a small part of the Mobile Legend game, or let's read an article first. What else? Or let's try to read a journal, or let's try to talk about the speech of Vladimir Putin. And after that, from those springboards, you can contextualize the grammar use of what they have watched and what they have read. And after that, grammar rule is taught in the later part. Okay? So it is something communicative. Let's teach grammar something communicative, even instead of teaching only its forms. Underline the subject, circle the verb, underline the subject, circle the verb. So it's better to teach grammar in very communicative way, like role playing, like they have simulation. In the later part, we'll talk about some activities about this. Okay. So why is descriptive grammar given focus here instead of the prescriptive one? I'm not telling you that prescriptive is wrong, but what we are trying to emphasize here is descriptive. Okay, why are we trying to emphasize descriptive grammar? This is because descriptive grammar accepts all set of grammar rules without strictness and pressure. This means to say that everyone is free to speak up. Is free to speak whatever structures of grammar he or she is using within his or her speech community. And everyone is very much familiar about world Englishes, right? Okay. Look, let's go back to prescriptive and later part descriptive. Do you remember the prescriptivist view of language? It's about the distinction between good grammar and bad grammar. Let's try to debunk this misconception about his grammar is different, his accent is different, and that's a good grammar, this is a better grammar. Maybe we should stop saying that and how do we call them? Let's try to fill in the gap, the difference between the two. That maybe it's only the level of formality, and it's not about the accent is wrong, the grammar is wrong, the usage is wrong. It's only about the level of formality, depending on how it is used in a different context or different situations. Okay, in prescriptive view, its primary focus is on standard forms. That is why earlier, when Sir Awais shared about one of the questions earlier here in the slide, I was able to see one question about how to what is the significance of descriptive grammar in technical writing. That will be answered in the later part. Okay, examples of the prescriptive. In English, less goes with mass nouns, less money, but there are some people who are still using much money, a lot of money. And then when we say prescriptive, you should use okay much for the mass noun, for the non-countable noun, and many for countable noun. So this is very prescriptive. You are being prescribed. This is what you should use. Okay, an English speaker should not split infinitives. Another example: to boldly go instead write or say to go boldly. Okay. In English, also, speakers should not use passive voice. This is for the prescriptivist. The meeting was held by the university instead of saying the university held the meeting. Do you remember that? This is not good. We should avoid using more passive voices when we construct sentences and writing formal letters. Okay, this is prescriptivist. In one example, speakers should avoid phrasal verb, come over to have some tea, instead or write or say, visit me to have some tea. Okay, do you remember the concept of saying stand, please stand up, and others would say, don't say stand up, that's wrong because stand up is when you are standing, it's always up, it's not down. So it's redundant. Do you remember that? We are being corrected about this. This is what we call prescriptive. Instead of saying stand up, please say stand. Okay, that's prescriptivist. But anyway, both are accepted. It's a matter of how you use it depending on the speech community or the people whom you talk to. Another example, discuss. Today we should discuss about, I remember my teacher before always, my teacher before called my attention, corrected me when I presented something in our class, and the teacher corrected me, don't use discuss about, because I usually say, today we are going to discuss about, oh no, not discuss about, it's only the discuss, because when you are discussing, it's always talking about. So when we say discuss, then about, then that's already redundant. So I've learned that one. That's one thing of being a prescriptivist. Like another example, do not start the sentence with conjunction. Be sure not to split infinitive as it is mentioned here. Okay. There are many examples, like especially for the use of pronoun. For example, the new teacher is her. Oh no, that's wrong. The new teacher is she. Okay, that's prescriptivist. But I'm not telling you that the new teacher is her is wrong. It is also accepted. Okay, and then Alicia and I, instead of saying Alicia and me, do you remember that? So this prescriptivist, Alicia and I, Alicia and me, can be also accepted. Okay, now descriptive grammar. I don't have to read this, but I will let you read it there. But let me just explain briefly something about this. Why do we focus on discussing the descriptive over prescriptive? This is it. It focuses on describing the English language as it is used. It is also not saying that there is a right or wrong way to use language. Okay? In linguistics, in linguistic point of view, you cannot tell that someone's grammar is correct or wrong or standard or non-standard, because each speech community has its own standards of grammar that is only accepted by them, accepted, understood, and functional among the people who use it. So when we say functional, this grammar focuses on the meaning it is conveyed instead of the form it uses. Okay? I'll read you some examples. English adjective order, opinion size. Do you remember? This is beautiful, small, green, American. Sometimes most of us we find this troublesome. What really comes first when we use the clusters of adjective? Okay. Some native speakers say, I am younger than him, instead of I am younger than he. Some people, I have lots of friends or Americans, and they would usually say, I am younger than him, the objective um, pronoun instead of the subjective pronoun. But we don't have the right to correct them. No, that's not him, that's he, because that's how they use it. Okay, that's descriptive. Another example, he graduated American University instead of he graduated from American University. Okay, I ain't going nowhere instead of I am not going anywhere. It depends on the level of formality and the place where we are, and the kind of people we speak with. Okay, descriptive grammar, look, does not deal with what is good or bad language, use forms and structures that not might be used by speakers of standard English, would be what is valid included. Okay, my point of stressing out the importance and value of descriptive grammar in this webinar is to let you know you might have your own different opinions there against my opinions, or some of you would agree with my opinion, but I would accept that. Okay, but I would respect that, whatever opinions you have. Okay, my point of stressing out the importance and value of descriptive grammar in this webinar is to let you know that there's no such thing as standard English. There's no such thing as standard English. Linguistically speaking, there is not just one standard English. And even the first language speakers, the native speakers of English language, may sound very differently from each other. For example, a biscuit in British English is called cookies in American English, and the vowel of the word bath, I take a bath, others would say I take a bath, it varies differently. sounds different in many varieties of English, like Welsh, Irish, and so forth. Because of these differences, many varieties of English have their own standard variety as well. Some examples are General American, Standard, what else? Standard British, General Australian, and Standard Scottish. So there is not just one standard English. There is not just one standard English, but there are several standard Englishes. Okay? But not many people actually speak a standard variety of English. Many people speak their own dialects and have their own accents that can be very different from the standard form. Okay? But we should keep this in mind. We should keep this in mind that wherever country we are who use English, if our accent and way of speaking do not equate with the American and British accents, that does not mean that our English is wrong. Okay? And wrong or substandard, they call it, that's substandard English. Okay, we should not be ashamed of our words and accents when we speak English, because these are what we call a reflection of our own identity and culture. That is why sometimes when my Spanish students in my class would would say good morning instead of saying good morning, but that's how they sound. There are in their own language, and we should respect that. The most important thing there is that your idea is able to convey across to them, and you are also able to understand them. Understanding is the most important thing. Okay, to note, the standardization of English depends on what is spoken and understood of people in one speech community. Okay, let me drink water for a while. Excuse me. Thank you. Now let's proceed to the second part. The time is 1:33. Let's proceed to the second part. Pragmatism. Everyone is very much aware of this philosophy. I don't have to read this anymore, but the highlight there is the practical for life and encourage them to grow into better. This is the application of skills in language, especially when we focus on language. The application of skills that they have acquired and apply these skills in different situations, but in solving problems. Okay? It has been said that language is not memorized because whether we like it or not, language can be learned even if we don't go to school. How do you learn your native language? Did you study that in school? Of course not. You learn it from time to time. So we don't need to. My point here is that language can be learned even if it's not studied, as long as you're exposed to the place where people speak that certain language. Okay, so it has been said that language is not memorized, but it is communicated because language is functional. It is a functional entity. Therefore, it should be taught and learned in a way that skills are applied in daily lives and also in practical situations. Okay, remember the United Nations, the ultimate goal of language learning is not only to simply master the rules of grammar and usages, as well as the correct use of punctuation and correct pronunciation. It is to communicate effectively and purposefully, okay, across people of different cultures. It is to foster unity and bridge the gap of diverse cultures. Okay, it is also to break, how do we call this? It is also to break communication barriers and solve communication breakdown. But what is the most important part and the overarching point is to use the language skills and communication skills to address social and global problems. In what way that global problems can be addressed through the use of language and communication. That is why here I am presenting to you the United Nations currently lists 2022 global issues. Let's first talk about the issues. The global issues is declared by the United Nations Manifesto. And in each issue, there are provided language activities. Okay, number one. The first issue is water contamination and shortage. So the examples, you can also create your own varieties of techniques and strategies for this. One example, lay out a poster that raises awareness on environmental conservation and have such poster posted in the public. It can be, okay, they have to, when they create a poster, excuse me, when they create a poster, what skills are used? The writing skills. What else? The skills of persuasion, the art of persuasion, so that they have to make sure that their language is persuasive, and they are able to encourage audiences in the public. Okay. Then what else? Conduct a cleanup drive. Oh, we are also conducting cleanup drive in our English class, not only in social science class. Okay, by inviting residents, we can invite the residents to a public speaking. So this is public speaking gathering on rescuing water resources. So we can also speak in the public. Okay, what else? Write a position paper on water contamination and problems and have it proposed to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. So here you can see that students are using the writing skills and they are able to connect with the government. This is the partnership between the school and the government in addressing social problems, but based on their skills in language and communication. Okay, and I think you can create your own techniques aside from the mentioned activities here. Okay, number two, the second issue, the relationship between education and child labor. Okay, class activities, for example, you can ask the students to create a short film or in web-based presentation about children who are deprived of education. It can be a film, or it can be a movie adaptation of the literary story or short story or poem they've read. They can make a film out of it, from the poem, from the short story, from the fables, or what else, from the epic or from novels. They can make a film. So the art skill is also used. The digital skill is also used aside from the communication skills here. Okay, what else? Give a public speaking session with the out of school youth. Public speaking is a way that develops students skills, not only the skills in communication, but also learn their leadership skill. Okay, so always think about this, that when we ask the students to present any public speaking session, always think about that they are also trying to develop their leadership skill in the community, in the society where they live. Okay, then what else? Create a TikTok video. We can utilize some social media platforms that students are accustomed to. Okay, create a TikTok video using persuasive words that invite people to value children with special needs. Or what else? They can even have the podcasting, the blogging. Okay, we can ask our students to utilize those things in order for them to use their communication skills or their language skills, not only within the four walls of the classroom, but also to be seen by the community, to be seen by the world. Okay, next, violence, one of the problems. Example, organize a talk show assuming a role of women who are physically and psychologically abused. Okay, um, what else? Watch a video on some abuses experienced by the members of the LGBT community and make a persuasive essay about it. Okay, this is where they have their stand. They can express their sentiments and opinions about violence, domestic violence. Okay, it can be also presenting a cosplay, assuming a role of Putin and Zelensky. Zelensky is the president of Ukraine, expressing their words of unity and agreement for peace. How can you use that? They present a cosplay, but they assume a role of the president of Russia and Ukraine, and then they express their words of unity and agreement for peace. Okay, it's drama. Okay. Next, poverty, another issue. For example, make a research about the factors that cause unemployment. So research is very important because in doing research, we are not only writing, students are not only writing, but they are also solving problems. That's why research exists, because problem continues to exist. Okay, number two, read a literary genre that talks about the value of generosity and make a movie adaptation that depicts mendicancy in the society. But the problem, some teachers, not all, actually, to be honest, I also experienced this before, but I am bothered by my conscience. It's my mistake. Before or even now, there are some teachers who use this like after reading the story, okay, make a drama based on the story. It's like you are repeating the story and they are presenting it in a different genre, different form, like the repetition of what they have read and present it, have a drama about it. Instead, the analyze the story and get the core point of the theme of the story, and then make a movie about the theme of such story, and then the theme that depicts mendicancy in the society or any problems in the society, and how should the government help them. Do you see here that while students are learning grammar, learning English and literature, they are also trying to actively participate in the activities of the government. So this is what we call participation in the government or in the society, not only to be confined within the four walls of the classroom and master the grammar rules there. Okay, then present a fashion show because most students like fashion show. We can utilize this. Present a fashion show of the dream job. What's your dream job in the future? And say something about its importance, like that. Okay, it's like preparing your students or orienting your students about their future career, right? Through presenting a fashion show and speaking about its importance. Why do you want to take this career? What's its importance? How useful it is, like that. Okay, inequality, another problem. Excuse me. Class activities, for example, conduct a debate whether about the equal rights between men and women in the society. It can be a debate. Okay, but aside from the debate, there are many activities that would contextualize about equal rights. Present a role play or drama of racial discrimination, sexism, etc. Based on the research conducted. It can be after they do the research, they can present it. Okay, they can present a role play. So from writing to something that is very artistic. Okay, present a role play or drama about the problems. And then I am also trying to tell you that when you ask the student to present a drama or to present a role play, please also raise some questions after that, after what they have performed. Or you can also ask the audience or the classmates about what they have understood based on the drama presented. Okay, then read a text can be also another activity. Read a text on injustices experienced by people in every country or human trafficking, for example, and write a letter addressed to its respective government. I'm not literally saying that you can also write a letter addressed to the president of the US while you are in the Philippines, while you are in India or Pakistan. This is just a, how do we call it? We are only assuming that you have to read something about injustices in China, injustices in Australia, injustices in the Philippines, in India, in Pakistan, in Spain. After they do the research, they can write a letter. So that's technical writing. Write a letter addressed to the respective government of that country, how he or she should solve this problem. Okay, terrorism, class activities. For example, craft a poem expressing thoughts on world peace. It can be. Some of us would even want our students to laminate the poem, right? There are so many ways that we can utilize this in very artistic and innovative way. Then make a short podcast on respecting one's beliefs, practices, traditions, and political territory because most of the problems nowadays is that we don't respect differences. We don't respect people's beliefs, practices, traditions. That's why conflict continues to exist. So we can somehow um, solve this problem in our English class by doing a lot of activities that would contextualize this problem, podcasts, and have this podcast uploaded on social media, whatever you like. Okay, compose a song can be also compose a song that advocates human rights and world peace using figures of speech. it can be. Okay, we can also use integrative teaching, like we can integrate these different subject areas. Oh, okay. That's it. I am making these activities short, and then I think you also have your own from the given activities. I know you can also procreate, or you can also recreate your own activities based on the given. The most important thing there is that when we teach grammar, when we have when we see the book or based on the curriculum or syllabus we have in school, let's try to think about, I am teaching this lesson, I am teaching this story, this literary genre, I am teaching this grammar lesson, but the end goal of this is to solve a certain problem. Okay, then apply some skills, artistic skills, scientific skills in solving the problem. Always think about that. Okay, because that's the nature of the curriculum, that's the nature of the education system. Why are students educating themselves? Why are the students studying? Why are we teaching? Because we are preparing the students to be exemplary citizens in the world, to be exemplary citizens in the society. Okay, so how can they be useful, the utilitarian, how can they be useful in the society based on what they have learned in the book, based on what they have learned in the classroom? By, of course, simply solving a lot of problems in the society, in the community. Okay? Here, let me read it in a very fast way. I'm so sorry. It's already 1:47. Ways of promoting positive, productive, and non-threatening environment in learning English. Number one, correct written outputs and account of the specific target skill. Please, when you correct some writings, essays, do not correct all errors, errors in punctuation, errors in grammar, errors in. You only focus on one skill. For example, in this essay, my point is only to correct errors in subject-verb agreement. Okay, so that's only your skill. That's only the focus of making correction. Do not make a bloody paper, because that would somehow also discourage the students. And I know you feel that when you were students before. Okay, then wrap up the lesson with students' attitude towards the topic. After the lesson, always ask the student. Do not just leave them. Okay, that's all for today. Goodbye, class. No, you ask them first, not only what have you learned today, but ask their attitude. Do you like the lesson? Which part of the lesson you like? Which part of the lesson you don't like? Which part of the lesson is beneficial? Which part of the lesson that does not need to be learned? Okay, you can wrap up the lesson by those things. Okay, use mother tongue to expand and emphasize essential ideas. I am trying to say about this because there are some teachers who are very strict in the use of English. Only English speaking policy. Never speak the dialect, never speak your native language. You speak only English. And this is somehow, how do we call this? We are trying to impose discipline or sanction in the learning language. And it's not a good, how do we call this one, idea. Okay, we can ask them to use the mother tongue when they need explanation, or if they want to understand further. We can use that. Okay, you still have subject integration across disciplines. You can even teach PE, physical education, music, what else? Cooking, in teaching English, or for example, cooking, following instructions, how to cook this menu, how to cook this following dish, or research some different dishes in different countries across the globe. So this is integration, thematic teaching. And then when they cook, they can also say something about it. So that's already speaking. What's the first thing to do, and after that, after they cook, they can sell it. So you are also teaching your students to be a businessman. When they sell, they use their skill in persuasion. How could they persuade the customers to buy their product? So there are so many things. Okay, what else? Do not force the students to speak in straight English if they can do so. Okay, that we should not make a very threatening English class, very strict English class, because in the end, we are trying to teach our students to communicate very well. Okay, effectively and purposefully. Next, this one, punishment. I have already mentioned this earlier. Then you do like work from home assignment. When you give, especially nowadays with the COVID, students are working at home, and then you also try to make the parents involved in making the assignment. I'm not literally telling you that they let their family or parents answer the assignment or homework, but what I mean of involving the participation of family members is that you can utilize some activities that would, for example, interviewing their father or mother, or involving them in doing the activities in the classroom, because the teacher is not there and they would think that I'm alone, I am far from being guided. So it's better that they can also, how do we call this one? They can also interact with the family members, or if they don't have, can be their friends. Okay. Employ outdoor activities. So we should not only limit our learning within the classroom, but also we can have excursion, outdoor activities in museums, in different companies, and so forth. Okay, employ communicative language teaching than prescriptive analysis. As what I have mentioned earlier, we should teach our students like grammar, to we should how do we call it, prepare or provide some activities that are communicative, that students are speaking, that students are really interacting, not only to solely answer the grammar rules in class. Okay, impose the use of reinforcements. Okay, you can give them rewards. There are so many things. Do not correct students' mistakes consistently. I'm not telling you that not to correct them anymore, but not very consistent, especially when they are learning the second language, because normally they commit mistakes. But if they are corrected most of the time, especially if it's very evident they are corrected, and then what will happen? They increase their affective filter and they are intimidated and they don't like to speak up anymore. Okay, contextualize and indigenize the lesson. You can teach English to utilize your cultures, to use your cultures, the students, the cultural background of the students, or to utilize different products in their own community. You can do that. Okay, use technology in challenging and thought-provoking ways. You know what? When we use projector or whatever technology we use, but if our activities are not thought-provoking, then effective learning or optimum learning will not take place. Even if we use projector, even if we use any technological device, but if the activities are not challenging, if the questions are not thought-provoking, then it's useless. Okay, remind the students of class rules most of the time. This is the most important thing. The daily routine, always remind them so that they are guided at every day. We should start like this, or we should end the class like this. So they are routinized of your lesson every single day. And then do recasting and making correction. The last one, when you speak of the recasting, it's like correcting the students in a way that it's not clear that they are corrected. You know what I mean? For example, if the student commits error in grammar, for example, yesterday I am absent, instead of yesterday I was absent. You can also correct them in this way, like, yesterday you were absent. Oh, one time also when I was absent, yesterday also I was absent, or last week I was absent. So it's like recasting or repeating the sentence by correcting the certain error, not to correct them immediately, that is very clear. Okay, these are my sources. I still have here. Let me end this talk by saying that the best English teacher, not only English teacher, but language teacher, whatever language you teach, does not produce fluent and smart language learners, but he or she does produce competent learners whose language unites all languages and cultures in the world. Thank you. And now let me turn over to the organizer.
Okay, sir, that was very wonderful presentation, and thank you for sharing the knowledge with us. So now we will like move towards the Q&A session. So let me share the slides. First, we will take some questions which were like given to us in registration form. Then we will come towards live session. Okay. So the first question is how to teach students with minimum knowledge of grammar.
Um, how to teach students with minimal knowledge of grammar. And of course, it's always part of our lesson that before we begin discussing a certain topic, we should also know the schemata. When you say the schemata, the prior knowledge of the students before you introduce the topic. No further knowledge. Or, for example, we can conduct first a diagnostic test so that we are able to diagnose or see the weaknesses and areas of strengths of the students regarding a certain grammar rules, okay, or grammar, a part of the grammar. And then aside from that, we can also say, we can also utilize the, this is also one thing that I mentioned earlier, that we can also utilize the deductive method. Uh, that is why I am telling you all methods are useful, whether traditional or not, but it depends on the students' readiness towards a lesson. We can utilize your deductive method, like introducing the topic, the adjective, the examples, and then the situations. But in most cases, students are really, they really have the short listening span to 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 learn a certain rules of grammar. So it would be better to give some interactive activities or the content-based instruction. I don't know if you're very much familiar with this. Content-based instruction is that to focus not on language rules but on the use. So we can ask our students to talk to their classmates, have a think pair share, or we can ask our students to present a short dialogue wherein grammar rules are there. That's it.
Right. So the second
What
question is,
else?
what are the effective strategies to teach grammar?
Ah,
Like
this is
also the like the prescriptive grammar, descriptive, and the like, you related it with pragmatism. So like in accordance with all these, so what would be the effective strategy?
okay. But before I answer this question, let me remind everyone. I think everyone knows about this. Some of you know about this, that there's no such thing as effective strategy. There's no such thing as the most effective method in teaching, because the effectiveness of the strategy primarily depends on the student's interest. So that's the less the nature of the subject matter, the availability of the materials, and even the ability of the teacher to handle the lesson. So it depends on those factors. But to answer you about effective strategies to teach grammar, we have to consider something, some activities, it might be general, something that would make them talk to each other in groups, in partner, or to make them um, write something or post something on social media and Facebook, Instagram. It can be like that because
Right.
that's one
So
thing that's in
something which like includes them in communication with each
yeah,
other. Or,
communication. Something
uh,
very communicative, okay?
yeah.
Not only to solely or only ask them to find the errors in the sentences, but ask them to speak up, to listen, to write, to interact like that with different channels of media, with different types of people, like that. Make it something communicative.
All right. So now moving towards like the time is also short, so we will try to quickly answer those and then take some questions from like. So the next question: how can descriptive grammar and pragmatism be used as research field? Like, what would be
Okay,
the
go.
options in research in these fields?
Okay. However, okay, it's a very good question. It's a very relevant question, but always think about this before we prescribe our student a certain topic. This should be the research. We should also focus first on thinking of the problem. What could be the problem in the classroom? Or what could be the problem in the community or in a certain speech community in as regards the use of English, as regards the use of grammar? Let's first spot the problem, and after that we can utilize, okay, we can utilize or we can use some topics or some research, how do we call this one, research topics or research titles to address a certain problem. But when we contextualize descriptive grammar and pragmatism, how can be used in research field, we can also talk something about um, students' fluency or accuracy towards learning the second language. It can be also like how to make the students active, or how to make the students, this one, how to make them interactive in learning the second language. What else? We can also ask our students to study and read more about the existence of the world Englishes, because there are different types of English. They can also use that. And even in different parts of the world, there are certain Englishes. Like in the Philippines, there's Philippine English. Okay, in some parts of the world, we can also utilize them.
Right. So now, should we master English grammar to be a good linguist?
Oh, it's a very interesting question. A little difficult question. Should we master English grammar to be a good linguist? I think you can be a good linguist even if you don't master English language. You can be a linguist in your own native language, because being a linguist is to study the structures of the language and how it is used in the community where you are. However, nowadays, because linguists, in scholarly studies, English is used as a medium of instruction when we redo researches. So it's also important that we should also master the grammar, the English grammar.
Right.
I hope I
So,
have
what
answered your
should
query.
yes, yes, you have answered sufficiently. So, what should be the prioritized fluency or mastery of the grammar? I think it's also already answered through your presentation. Like
Yeah,
the main focus should be fluency, like grammar comes after that if it is rightly communicated. Then yes,
thank you for the further additional explanation about what I have answered earlier, Sir Wise.
okay. So, I should be like, would you like to add something, or we should go on to the next question?
Okay, what should be prioritized, fluency or mastery of the grammar? Before we prioritize between mastery or fluency, let us first prioritize the readiness of the students, because some students have already mastered this part. Some students have already. There are some students who have already mastered their speaking skill, but not the writing skill. So let us first try to prioritize first by mastering the students' interest and the students' need. But if you try to focus on the standard operating procedure, of course, we have to let the students master first. And then when they have the mastery, then there is, of course, the accuracy first and then the fluency. Aside from
Right.
the fluency, we should not stop by there. As I mentioned earlier, do not be satisfied by the students who are fluent in the use of English, but like make this fluency something very useful and helpful, especially when they communicate with different people in the community, in the society, and especially in addressing social and global issues.
All right. So like these kind of both are important at equal level. They should both go hand in hand like that. Okay.
Okay.
So what is the importance of descriptive grammar in relation to technical writing?
Yeah, technical writing, like when we speak of business writing, making a letter, different correspondences, making a précis or position paper research, okay. Of course, we stick to the use of this prescriptive, because usually when we do research, when we write something, it should be formal. So prescriptive writing is very useful in this part in technical writing. But based on the question here, what is the importance of descriptive grammar? The importance of descriptive grammar is only to let all of us understand that there are some people or students that no matter how you instruct them to use formal English, they still unconsciously write English the way they speak in their own language. So we cannot avoid that. There are still some students who write informal words, informal languages when you ask them to write a formal letter. So it's only a way of understanding students, understanding the speech community where he or she belongs. That's it. But in most cases, in technical writing, as we know, we use prescriptive grammar.
All right. So like in technical writing, prescriptive grammar is more important.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sir, we are going to take one question. Like this is the last question from registration form. Then three live questions. I understand
Okay.
that you have something other scheduled, so we are running short of time. So,
Yes, because
thank
of
you
my
for
classes, I still have to attend. I'm so sorry. I still have to attend classes in a few minutes.
yes.
It's already 2:05. Okay.
Okay. So, what strategies do you think will be best for online learning, like grammar also, but
No, this person who raises the question is very familiar. Okay, Melissa. What strategies do you think will be the best? As what I have mentioned, there is no such thing as the best strategy. Okay, but when we speak of a certain strategy that is good for online learning, hopefully, if the students have a fast and reliable Wi-Fi, if not, then we can send them some modules. But for the best online learning, ask the students to group themselves, ask the students to be in pair, and then we can also ask the students to do researches, read a lot of things in different channels of social media because this is what they like. Or maybe we can also ask them to utilize their interest. For example, if the students are very much interested in playing a certain game, what game? Fortnite, for example. I'm not good at games, I'm so sorry. Fortnite and then Mobile Legend. This is what I have heard many times. You can also ask the students to list down the characters in the games, and then what else? Um, list down the characters in the games and take their roles in the game. What are the roles and how their roles affect uh, the the continuity of the game or the flow of the game? I like that. It can be, or how can you relate yourself to the character in the game? So it's something that is psychological that would also try to develop their in understanding themselves. So that's it.
Okay, thank you very
There
much.
are many.
So,
There are many.
okay, so from live questions, we have one here on the screen, and we are still waiting for other questions to come. So this is what is impact of L2 on mother tongue in ESL class?
What is the impact of L2 on mother tongue in ESL class? So what do you mean by L2? The language, the second language is the English on mother
Yes,
tongue.
yes. L2, like L2 is mostly English of mostly people.
Can be
ES
the for
so
can be
L2
the
is English.
foreign language or can be the second language. What is the impact of language on mother tongue in English class? Yeah, of course, when always we should always keep this in mind that when we teach the second language, whether second or the foreign language, but there's no third language, as what the linguists say, whatever language you learn, how many languages you have learned, there is always the second language. Okay, we can also contextualize and indigenize the different cultures that we have. This is in our mother tongue, the different cultures that we have, and integrate this in English class. Or we can also ask the students to do translation of different languages from English to your own native language. However, we should also avoid to do translation, grammar-based translation in the literary stories because in literary stories they are understood and interpreted. They are not understood and interpreted literally. So, like idioms, it should not be translated from English to your mother tongue literally. So that's it. Contextualization of your of your first language to the second language. Your cultures in the first language, you teach your cultures, you indigenize your own cultures while teaching the English language. I would like to add up. I'm so sorry. You let me speak up much, sir. I would like to add up like what happened here in Spain. A lot of students are still like apart from the English is their foreign language, the second language, they find it really difficult. They are struggling in learning the second language, most especially that the teachers are still utilizing a book. I'm not mentioning the name of the book because it's already politicizing. Okay, like using a certain book from a certain country whose English is native, they are still sticking to the book in which the cultures of this country are utilized and contextualized very much, and not only the cultures of the students here in Spain. It's like it should be the Spanish culture should be utilized in teaching English instead of utilizing the cultures of a certain country where they are using a certain book. So like that, always think about this, your culture, always include your culture, contextualize the different situations in your community when you teach English.
All right, very well. So now coming towards last question. So that is like this one. Okay. So after this question, we will be done with live Q&A session. Is grammatical automaticity possible developing grammatical competence if mother tongue is accepted in second language classroom?
Mother tongue is accepted. You try to think about this. How did you learn the second language? How did you learn the second language? Whether we like it or not, when we learn the second language, you're always thinking back to our native language. How do I understand this certain phrase? How do I say it in my own language? So it gets back to your native language. Whether we like it or not, no one learns a second language without basing it on his or her native language. So I can say there are a lot of researches that would prove that if the students have a strong background of the first language, they can easily learn the second language. Based on my cases, okay, before I studied Filipino as my main, before I studied one language, second is the in my master's another language. My degree when I was in college was not actually in English, but my major was Filipino. But when I studied masters in English, I was able to give to make a contrast between the two, and it would be easier for me to learn English because of my strong cultural background of my previous language. That's it. However, when you teach this, like here in Spain, when you teach English to the Spanish learners, we should not also literally translate the Spanish to English because it depends on the structures of the language. Language structures are different. So you can also let them think in a way that the second language is learned spontaneously instead of like learning it with much conscious.
All right, sir. So thank you very much for giving your time and answering
I
the.
hope I have answered your queries, and there are lots of questions, sir, that are very interesting. And these questions also, some of the questions also are motivating me to learn more, to read more, and to do some researches about this. So thank you so much that in this webinar, I have also learned from my audience. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for being here and giving your precious time. We totally learned a lot about how to teach grammar. So it was a wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, so everyone, that was about it. So the webinar, we are done with the webinar and hope you have learned something new and hope your queries are answered. Like there were a list of a lot of questions, so we could only do so many. So anyways, so now we will move towards our third section of our webinar, that is distributing certificates. So for certificates, let me tell you the process. And okay, so just let me, right. So for certificate, I will be sending a link in the live chat box. So if you are watching directly from YouTube, you can see that link. But if you are watching from Gmail or something other, then the or YouTube app or YouTube directly written in the browser. So kindly, if you are not on YouTube directly, so come directly to YouTube so you can have access to live chat box. So in chat box, I will be giving a link shortly. So that link will redirect you to a form, certificate form, feedback form. So in feedback form, you have to write four things. Number one is your full name, which you want to be written on the certificate. And then the second will be your country name for letter references. Then the third would be your compliments for Sir Osmar. And lastly, feedback for the host, Avis Raza, right? So these four things will be like you will be providing us in feedback form, and whomsoever fills the feedback form will get his or her certificate of participation. And again, I'm repeating, make sure you write your correct name, email address, and all the things like correctly, and the name which you will provide us, like with every capitalization and everything, that same will be written on the certificate. So make sure you write it correctly and you write as you want it to be on your certificate. So now I will be sharing the link in the comment section. So let me just copy the link. Okay, I have copied it. All right. So I have sent the link in the chat box. You can click on it and fill the form, and once you fill it, you can come back to the live and write I have filled it. And if you face some problems, then you are welcome. All right. So kindly tell me if you are able to see the link in the live chat box. Okay, thank you everyone for joining and making this webinar successful. Okay, and thank you all for asking questions which made this webinar more informative and more uh, interactive. So thank you very much for being such good participants. And okay, so let's see how many of you have filled the feedback form. Okay, so I can see only 5 responses so far. Now 7. The number is increasing. So I can see we have 157 live viewers right now. So kindly find the link in the chat box. Like if you will get certificate only if you fill that feedback form. If you don't fill it, you won't be receiving any certificate later on. And one thing more, you will be receiving certificate depending on how many certificate receivers we have. So it might take from 3 to 7 days maybe. So it will be posted on our Facebook page that how many days it will take for everyone to receive their certificates. So thank you again everyone for joining this webinar and making it such a success. All right, so I have been sending the link in the chat box again and again. Kindly fill it and only fill your form. Don't do it for friends or someone else who haven't watched the webinar. So let's let it remain authentic. And thank you again, everyone. So we have got 98 responses so far on the feedback form. So yes, and if you want to contact us, then you can like email us at our Gmail address. The address is given in the banner. Okay. Once you fill the feedback form, you are like allowed to leave the webinar. You will be receiving the certificates within 7 days or so. And if you haven't seen our Facebook page yet or liked it, so kindly go there. We will be posting about new webinars over there, and also the certificate process updates will be given over there on our Facebook page. Facebook page is also named as Linguistics and Pedagogy Webinars. The same logo is over there as it is on our YouTube channel's deep profile picture. Okay, again, thank you everyone. And we have got 165 responses so far and 143 live viewers. So done. A lot of people are writing done, done. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, all of the participants, for joining till the end. And good luck with your future endeavors. And I hope that this certificate helps you in your future career and it becomes a good and valuable addition to your CV. Okay, thank you everyone. 190 responses so far. And again, I'm telling if after this live session ends, we will also close the feedback form. Like you will not be able to fill it later on. So kindly do it as soon as possible. All right. So we have got 207 responses so far. Once you fill your feedback form, comment done here in the live chat, and then you are like allowed to leave. You can leave the session. Nothing more is going to happen over here. So our webinar has ended. I'm just waiting for you guys to fill the forms, and if you have some problem with it, you can share it with me, and we will try to resolve it. Okay, thank you everyone. All right. So would you like to attend future seminars? If no, not seminars, future webinars. So all right. Let me just correct it. Webinars. All right. So kindly fill the form. The link is given in chat box. If you cannot see the chat box, then come to YouTube app or directly come to YouTube from your browser. And thank you everyone for joining. Okay. All right. I can see your comments. All of you, most of you have sent yes, done, and others are thanking me and Sir Osmar. So thank you also. Thanks to you also for joining us. Okay. So 255 responses so far. Okay, and 127 viewers. So once you have filled the feedback form, you can leave the stream. You will receive certificates, and for update on certificates, you can visit our Facebook page, Linguistics and Pedagogy Webinars. Over there, we will be updating about how many certificates have been sent and what is the process and all. Thank you, everyone, again for joining. Okay, we have got 264 responses. Okay. Most of you have filled the feedback form. It's good to see you all. After a long time, it has been so many days after we had a webinar with Sir Stephen Gresham. We had another webinar which was cancelled because the speaker wasn't available. Then we are having this session now, and hopefully, we will have more sessions for you. So, yes, 275 feedback forms have been filled. All right. Okay, so kindly fill the feedback form as soon as possible. If you have filled the feedback form, then you can leave the live stream. Okay, so 111 viewers still, and 288 forms have been filled. Done, thank you. Okay, I cannot understand this. Kindly write in English. Okay, so Palawan, I hope I am pronouncing right. So kindly somebody translate in English so I can understand. Okay, so 90 viewers still and 292 responses. All right, so 75 viewers still. If you have filled the feedback form, you can leave the live stream now. And I'm here to, if you have any problems regarding filling the feedback form, you can ask me. Okay, so this is a query that I haven't received the certificate yet. So you will not receive the certificate immediately after you fill the feedback form. It will take some days. So we will update on how much time it will take to distribute the certificates on our Facebook page. Facebook page name is also Linguistics and Pedagogy Webinars. You can check it out on Facebook, and we will update you. So it will take some time to provide the certificates. Okay, thank you everyone. 68 participants left and 297 forms are filled. Yes, we didn't pick up much live questions because we already had a lot of questions related to provided in registration form, and also Sir Osmar also had something else to attend, so that's why we had very short time. So the presentation and the registration questions took a lot of time, so there was very less space remained for the live questions, but we tried to take some of them also. So I hope all of the questions are many of the questions are cleared. So we will try to accommodate many questions in later sessions. Like we will try to minimize those registration form questions and take more of the live questions. So thank you. And about what you have recently mentioned, why is speaker unavailable? Speaker was available of this webinar. I am talking about our previously scheduled webinar some days ago. So that didn't happen because the speaker was not available. So that was about it. This session had the speaker, like we already conducted the whole session with them. So that was about what I am talking about, that the last session couldn't happen. Okay, so I hope it's clear. So done. Fantastic. Okay. So we have got 304 responses so far, 305. Now I'm going to end this live session in about 30 seconds, and then see you in the next webinar. I hope you also come to attend the future webinars as well. All right. So thank you everyone. Thank you for being a part of this webinar, and I hope to see you in future webinars as well. And you are such a lovely audience, and many of you are from Philippines, also Morocco, some from India, Pakistan, and all different countries. Thank you everyone for joining and making it possible. Thank you again. So the in live chat there is a link, so kindly fill it. Okay, so we are going to end the live session. Thank you everyone again, and hope to see you in the next webinar.